The Outer Worlds 2 takes place in an alternate timeline where U.S. President William McKinley was not assassinated in 1901. As a result, he was never succeeded by Theodore Roosevelt, a vocal anti-monopolist who pushed to break up the growing business trusts of the time. Without his intervention, society eventually became dominated by autocratic megacorporations that maintained a rigid class system based on capitalism, consumption, and brand loyalty. After a devastating global war in the mid-21st century, faster-than-light travel was invented, allowing humanity to colonize the universe with different intentions and fates for the various expeditions. Within Arcadia, a star system comprising the planets Hemera, Nyx, and Elysium, including Elysium's 5 moons, Eden, Dorado, Cloister, Predor, and Recluse, the human colony was initially controlled by the Protectorate of Arcadia, an authoritarian regime that traces its founding to the supposed inventor of faster-than-light technology, Alexandra Varick. Seeking to escape the powerful megacorporations on Earth, she led the initiative to colonize Arcadia, establishing humanity's first interstellar colony there. Over a century later, the Protectorate maintains a cult of personality around Varick, posthumously known as the Matriarch, and her descendants, enforcing their rule under threat of a form of re-education referred to as mental refreshment. They also continue to be the colony's sole manufacturer of skip drives, the technology that makes interstellar travel possible. In the year 2352, 3 years before previous events, the Earth Directorate, an administrative body tasked with maintaining order in the various colonies, sends the commander and her team on their ship, the Incognito, to Arcadia to investigate the appearance of interdimensional rifts that have cut off trade and communication between the colonies, which, if left unchecked, threaten to destroy the universe. Following intelligence gathered by fellow agent Augustine de Vries, who infiltrated the Protectorate before the team's arrival, they traced the origins of the rifts to Horizon Point Station, a skip drive manufacturing facility run by the Protectorate. During the infiltration, de Vries deviates from the team's directive and activates an experimental skip drive, creating a new rift which destroys the station. The commander uses an escape pod to launch themselves into space, while nearly everyone left behind is killed. Cryogenically frozen inside the pod, the commander floats in space for 10 years before being rescued by Niles Ibarra, a fellow Earth Directorate agent on her team who narrowly survived Horizon Point's destruction. He reveals that de Vries also survived, and he spent the past decade trying to find her in order to enact vengeance for the rest of the team's deaths. He also explains that in the time that's passed, the megacorporation Auntie's Choice, a merger of pharmaceutical company Auntie Cleo's and consumer goods manufacturer Spacer's Choice, is 3 years into a hostile invasion of Arcadia, seeking to claim both the Protectorate's skip drive technology and the star system's wealth of natural resources. Additionally, the Protectorate's Scientific Research Division, the Order of the Ascendant, has split from the regime and is now engaged in conflict with both the Protectorate and Auntie's Choice. Tracking down de Vries, the duo learns that while investigating the Protectorate, she became enamored with the Order's doctrine of arithmetically based predestination known as the Universal Equation, and adopted an extremist interpretation of the Creed. The commander, Niles, and their allies confront each of de Vries' conspirators and eventually learn of her plans to disrupt the ongoing peace talks between the Order and Auntie's Choice by assassinating their delegates. At the space station where the negotiations are taking place, the team intervenes, at which point de Vries reveals that her actions on Horizon Point were intended to prevent both the Protectorate and Auntie's Choice from ultimately using skip drive technology to inadvertently open more rifts and destroy the universe, as has been predetermined by the Universal Equation. The commander must decide whether to kill or spare de Vries, with killing her possibly leading to the deaths of the peace delegates as well. Regardless of the commander's choice, another rift opens and destroys the station, with all surviving parties escaping. In order to close the rifts permanently, the team uses data collected by de Vries to determine their strategy, which includes stealing a rift modulator from a Protectorate research facility that has the power to open rifts and recover what was lost within them. While recovering the rift modulator, a message is broadcast announcing that the Protectorate's sovereign has submitted themselves for mental refreshment, publicly known as a treatment to help those suffering with mental issues. but which is in actuality chemically induced brainwashing, and have therefore been replaced by the Sovereign's consul, Emery Thoreau, in a bloodless coup. The commander's team also learns that the Earth Directorate, unable to directly contact them, had instead launched a satellite containing all research relating to rifts. The density of the data requires using a supercomputer in the Order's archives, currently controlled by the Protectorate. To aid in retaking the archives, the commander and her team can choose to ally with the Order, Andy's choice, both by encouraging the two factions to collaborate, or neither to work alone. After tasking the archives computer with decrypting and analyzing the data, Horizon Point Station suddenly reappears from within its rift, though in a decayed state. The team determines that Thoreau has used the Protectorate's resources to manipulate the rift, but that the rift itself is growing unstable. They fight their way through the remains of the station and confront Thoreau aboard the Protectorate's flagship, who reveals that the rifts retain data about everything they consume. Therefore, he plans to grow the rift to consume the entire Arcadia star system, then modify the data collected within the rift in order to recreate the system to be perfect. However, the Protectorate's research into the rifts by his own top scientists states that this is impossible, leaving him delusionally resolute and in denial, still attempting to proceed with his plan when the commander reaches him. The only way to stop the rift's destabilization and close it for good is by piloting the rift modulator into it, and with the rift's interference disabling the flagship's autopilot, someone must remain behind and sacrifice their life to manually pilot it, leading to one of several potential outcomes. If the commander is able to convince Thoreau to change his mind, he chooses to be the sacrifice to atone for his mistakes. If the commander is unable to convince him, she's forced to fight and kill him, afterward choosing to sacrifice either herself, DeVries if alive, or another team member to close the rift. She can also choose not to do anything at all about the rift, which then proceeds to destabilize further, first destroying all of Arcadia, and then the entire universe, as it ripples across all galaxies. If someone sacrifices themselves, the rift is closed, and life continues for everyone else who survived, with their fates depending on the commander's choices throughout her mission. Peace is restored to Arcadia in accordance with the ideals of whichever faction or factions that the commander sided with, but Earth still remains cut off from the rest of the universe after having gone dark, with all communication and supply lines mysteriously ceasing.